Oh, tiki-taki. Hey, everybody. I'm just signing in on TikTok as well. Making myself a little less red on TikTok, maybe. Or maybe not. I will never figure this out. I will. Hey, everybody. Give me a quick second trying to figure out this. There it is. Nope, that's not it. Well, maybe I'm going to be red on TikTok today. Oh, there it is. All right. Woo. Now I'm normal on TikTok. Go live. Woo. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's, what day is today? Monday, March 28th. Hello, all. Hello, TikTok. I always wait for my first TikToker to come here. Welcome the first TikToker. Hang on. Here we go. Here we go. TikTok's up here. You guys are down there. One quick sec. Teresa, you're the first TikToker. Woo! Thank you for joining us. And thank you guys on YouTube for joining us, and Facebook and Twitter. And I think that's it. Those are our 4 places. Exactly. Weigh in. Tell people where you guys are from. I always like to see where everybody's from. And I think it's nice for you guys as well to just see everybody from all over the world. A lot of Americans, but we also get a lot of other people, which is neat too. Thank you. I already got a crown. Thank you. California, Ohio, Windsor, Canada, DC. That sounds familiar. Wisconsin. What else we got? New Zealand. Oh, that's always nice. Ireland. Barbados. I don't remember Barbados. You may have been here before, but I don't remember seeing Barbados before. That's very cool. Newfoundland. We saw Newfie before. At least we call the dogs Newfies. I don't know if we call you guys Newfies. North Carolina. Chicago, my home. Real Washington. Hey, watch it. Watch it. And hey, moderators as well. Exactly. Hi to the moderators. Thank you, Kate. That is very sweet of you to start with. I appreciate it. What else we got? LA, Wisconsin, Netherlands. That's nice. California, Kentucky. Just welcoming everybody and all the TikTokers and YouTubers. We like to kind of go for a second just to have people introduce themselves because I think it's kind of a nice way to start things. And then I'm going to jump right in with the news. We actually have a good deal of news today, and then we will have a discussion until around 8:15. And since my headache is going away, maybe I'll even survive the whole time. Thank you. I had a nasty headache today, but I think it's leftover no surgery sinus stuff, and then I didn't eat in time, and so I just had many pieces of chocolate from Casey, who sent me, one of you guys, really strong chocolate, and it's helping open up my head. All right, guys, keep introducing yourselves. I am going to... and Chris and Ted, thank you for that. I'll just do a quick introduction. I am John Aravosis. Thanks. I've been in Washington, D.C. for 30-some years. 2 years I took off and went to New York, which I love New York City. Did not love working at the United Nations. That's a story for another day. But I started these because we wanted to update everybody on what's going on in Ukraine, and there was a lot of interest. And also my personal pet peeve is that I find news isn't sort of synthesized for people enough. It's not explained well enough. And I think it helps to sort of condense it and crystallize it for folks and explain why the news matters. In other words, not just that here's what happened today, but tell you something that happened and why it matters. Otherwise, I'm not going to tell you about it. So you'll also notice that I don't mention all the Ukraine news because a lot of it I think is, we can talk about it during the comments, but I'm not sure I consider it a top story. In any case, so thank you for that. Thank our moderators. Moderators, I've sort of, maybe I feel like I never explained to the moderators because I just sort of let them do what they need to. But, feel free to block people who are obvious bad people. I think anybody who strikes you that they're just a little hot-headed, but they're good people, but they're in a little bit of a fight, a 5-minute timeout is fine, for muting. But anybody who clearly is a troll, is a bad person here to cause trouble, just block them and be done with it. It makes your life easier because you don't have to worry about them in 5 minutes. All right, guys, let me jump right in. As always, on TikTok, you've got the question function, and I will go into the questions after I'm done with the news and pick some of your questions to answer. And on YouTube, you simply can put your questions in the comments, but I always promise on YouTube that if you buy a super chat question, then I guarantee I will answer it, and I will also get to it as my next question as well. So super chat questions come first because you guys are supporting my work. Otherwise, I will just go back and forth, and we can only do a handful of questions because literally we get like 200 questions each time. But let's dive in, guys. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for that little origami bird. So couple big stories today. Let me start first with just kind of where the war is, because I think that's kind of what we most care about is how's it going? How's it going for the Ukrainians? How's it going for the Russians? The Ukrainians have taken back some cities, which is good. The reports are, especially around Kyiv, the capital, they have probably taken back Irpin, which is a town you've heard a lot about. It's in the suburbs there. A town east of Kyiv, Lukyanivka? I never know. I can pronounce Russian names or Ukrainian, but I never know where the stress is. That's the only problem in reading these. The Russian troops, however, continue to fight around Kyiv. Thank you for that. Which is interesting because you'll remember over the weekend, the Russian Defense Ministry said, oh, the first phase of the war is over. Now we're going to focus on eastern Ukraine. And they were almost trying to wipe their hands of going after Kyiv, the capital. Thank you, Jasmine. Of going after Kyiv, the capital, and saying, oh, we never meant to take over the Ukrainian capital, which was a lie. But because they did so badly, they're now trying to shift it to the east, right? Well, they're still bombing outside of Kyiv. They're still bombing in Western Ukraine. They're still bombing in a lot of stuff on TikTok. Thank you, guys. They're still bombing in a lot of places around the country. So it's still not clear that the Russians have given up on everything but Eastern Ukraine. That's something to keep in mind, okay? There is also heavy fighting going on in eastern Ukraine. The Russians are trying to encircle the Ukrainian troops out there. Remember, eastern Ukraine is where those breakaway provinces are that Russia's trying to steal and make part of Russia. The Russians are trying to kind of encircle them from the north and the south so they can surround the Ukrainian troops and cut off their supply lines in the same way the Ukrainian troops have cut off the Russian supply lines all over the place, right? So that's something to keep in mind is, as we always say, maybe the word stalemate isn't the best word, but this war is very push me, pull you. It's this very like Ukrainians do better, Russians do worse. Russians do a little better here, Ukrainians do worse. So just keep an eye on that. Also, Mariupol, the town in the south that is just getting obliterated. It's the one where the Russians blew up the maternity hospital. It's the one where the Russians blew up the theater that had the word children written outside twice in big letters. And it had women and kids hiding inside as refugees, and in a bomb shelter, blew them up, killed at least 300 of them. Mariupol has been just devastated, and there is concern that Mariupol could fall in a few days. And this is important because Russia needs to get that entire corridor. What they want to do is they want to take Crimea, the territory in the south that they stole from Ukraine back in 2014. They want to connect it by land, by stealing land, Ukraine here along the Black Sea, that sea that's around Turkey and the other countries, steal this land, and then steal the land in eastern Ukraine that borders Russia. And that way, either they create big Russia going all the way down, or they, create an independent state, new Russia, that they can run and own. So that's what's going on with the military stuff. One of the other big stories today, which has been annoying the heck out of me, is this whole Biden story. And I got to tell you, if you've seen any of my earlier broadcasts, you've seen me talk about it. I've been a little peeved, not at Biden, but at the media, and I'm getting more peeved. So just to sum it up, I think you guys know this, but just to give you a little refresher, this weekend, the last couple days, Biden's in Europe last week for a NATO summit and to meet with the European leaders, talk about Ukraine. He then goes to Poland, meets with Poland's leader, who has been very good on the Ukrainian situation, and then goes to meet the Ukrainian refugees in Poland. And has a very heartwarming meeting with them, meeting the refugees, meeting these kids, this kind of thing, right? That evening, Biden gives a speech, and in the speech, he says something to the effect of Russia can never be allowed to win this war. And then at the end of the speech, he says, my God, this man cannot remain in power or cannot be permitted to remain in power, talking about Vladimir Putin. Now, the media I don't want to just blame the media. A lot of people, including myself, went, wow, that was a pretty, kick-ass statement from Biden. Good for him, right? And immediately, and this is what ticks me off, rather than owning the statement and going, Biden actually showed some backbone. He was plain speaking. He said, he's already said Putin's a war criminal, right? The man's already a war criminal, so there's no problem saying he shouldn't be in power. Of course, a war criminal shouldn't be in power, rather than saying, yeah, he said it and he means it. The White House jumps in and says, well, he didn't mean that we should throw Putin out of power. And then the State Department weighs in and goes, we weren't talking about regime change. Regime change basically means just that we go in and, use bombs and troops to overthrow the Moscow government. What annoys me, and it's been going on till today. I was just watching CNN, and again, I love CNN. CNN's coverage of the war has been better than anything out there, at least here in America, that we get. And CNN, the first 20 minutes of the show at 6 o'clock, the big evening news is about this Biden quote. And did Biden mean he wanted to overthrow Putin? And what does it mean? And does it mean Putin's more likely to use chemical weapons? What really frustrates me is I think Biden does himself a disservice, and his staff certainly does him a disservice. Donald Trump, whatever you'd say about him, when Trump would do stuff like this, Trump would just own it. I mean, Trump could do the worst thing on the planet, and he'd go, yeah, I did it, and I'll do it again. I mean, I am not going to weigh in on the merits of what Trump did or didn't do, but there is a certain power involved in owning your statements and not being perceived as weak. And I think Ronald Reagan, another one. Actually, Bill Clinton, even Barack Obama. Oh, we got the dog barking in the hall. My neighbor's puppy's barking in the hallway. So pretty soon my dog's going to hear her. I'm just warning you. When Sasha hears Brutus, it's a bit of an explosion of dogs. But in any case, this whole thing is just, I'm going to the next page here, is just really ticking me off, because also they're asking, and I kid you not, I watched this. Do you think Vladimir Putin is... They had a press conference today. Same BS at the press conference. Do you think Vladimir Putin's more willing to use chemical weapons now that Joe Biden said he shouldn't be in power? And you're sitting here going, yes, I'm sure Vladimir Putin, really nice guy that he is, was never going to use chemical weapons, was never going to kill a civilian. But now that Joe Biden was mean to him in one speech, all bets are off. Putin's going to nuke us. I mean, the weakness that's being shown. And again, I will come back to Biden and the White House. They should have never, and I'll move on after this, but they should have never apologized, because now not only, does Biden look like he's waffling? Does it make it look like Biden made a mistake? I mean, just a lot of what I do in my life is public relations and marketing, because a lot of politics is having to market something in a good way, though. I mean, you've got to sell your positions to the public. And as a leader, you've got to convince the public that you're actually, that you're smart, that you're strong, that you can get things done. You don't want to present weakness to the public. And I think when you keep correcting him, when the staff keeps correcting him, they're presenting weakness. Anyway, I'll move on from this, but it really ticks me off. And day 3 of this at this point, the media needs to get over it. And frankly, Biden and the White House need to get over it. I mean, they should never apologize, and they should never apologize again. Because in the end, actually, I will say this. James Clapper was just on TV, who I adore, former director of national intelligence for the U.S., former general, I believe, too. Smart guy, straight shooting, just very good, objective military analyst. And Clapper said something I've been saying to you guys for the last several days. He said, we've already said the man's a war criminal. Are people trying to argue that a war criminal should remain as president of Russia? Like, that's your argument against Joe Biden? I mean, that's U.S. policy? War criminals are us. Hey, if you're a war criminal, you go for it. The entire thing makes no sense. All right, let's move on to Russia floated a peace proposal today that I think is total BS for a number of reasons. First of all, it didn't include anything about returning, thank you for that on TikTok. It didn't include anything about returning Ukraine's land that the Russians stole in 2014, Crimea in the south, and the land they've now occupied today and clearly want to take. Like I said, they want to steal the land in the south and they want to steal the land in the east of Ukraine, make it part of Russia. That's not even in there, so that's a deal breaker right there. The rest of the proposal just doesn't make sense. Russia says Ukraine can't join NATO. Okay, we expect Russia to say that. Ukraine can't become nuclear. Okay, Ukraine didn't seem to have any design to become nuclear, and they even gave up their nuclear weapons in exchange for the US and the UK, and Russia promising them peace and guaranteed borders. Oops, right? And in exchange, the Russian proposal says Ukraine can join the European Union which is a total lie. No one believes this. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014 and took Crimea, the land on the south, in large part, Russia says, because they were so upset at Ukraine talking about having this, not even joining the EU, but having this, I forget what they call it in the EU, but it's almost like a partner relationship where I think you get special treatment by the EU, this kind of thing. You're not even a member, and Russia invaded and took Crimea. There is no way that this few years later, Russia's going to say, oh, join the EU. Totally cool with that. European Union, no problem. So that's a lie. The last one was my favorite. A guarantee from the US, the UK, Germany, I think France was there, maybe India, a couple other countries, and Russia, of course, that all these countries, and Poland, that all of these countries will guarantee Ukraine's sovereignty, meaning we'll go to war if anybody invades Ukraine like Russia. And I'm listening to this and I'm going, okay, that was the promise we made to Ukraine back in 1994. For Ukraine to give up its 5,000 or 6,000 nuclear weapons. Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union. Soviet Union dissolves in 1991. Ukraine has the nuclear weapons that were on its land. It inherits them. So Ukraine, thank you. Ukraine gets 5,000 to 6,000 nuclear weapons from the Soviets. And we and the Russians and the British negotiate with Ukraine and say, you know what, can you give up your nukes? And in exchange, among other things, we will give you a guarantee of your security. Britain, America, Russia, we will all guarantee your security. No one will invade you, which kind of sounds like we promised that if Russia invaded, we'd get involved, right? Well, Russia invades 2014, takes Crimea. We don't get involved. Russia invades this time, is trying to take the entire country. We got involved, right? We've been giving weapons, but we clearly have made clear that we're not going to get involved in this war. We are not going to get into fighting with Russia. So in other words, that promise we made was BS. Why would Ukraine accept any promise to end this war that involved any country promising, oh, we'll protect your borders, and if you get invaded by Russia next time, we'll defend you? Even though this time we made clear you're totally not worth it, and it would be a nuclear war and the end of the world if we defended you. But next time, totally willing to end the world for you, Ukraine. BS. At some point there will be peace. At some point there's going to have to be some kind of terms. I get it, but any idea that security guarantees are going to work are just garbage. I don't think. And what's worse. And somebody said this on the news today, and I've said it before too. I worry that the lesson from Ukraine is don't give up your nukes. If you've got nuclear weapons, don't give them up. And if you don't have nuclear weapons, get them. Because if you give them up, no one is going to protect you. If anybody says give up your nukes and we guarantee your security, they're lying. That's the clear lesson from Ukraine. And if you have nukes, the world is going to bow down before you and let you do pretty much what you want. They're certainly not going to go to war with you. And that Russia has shown, and we have shown vis-a-vis Russia. So I think it is a very dangerous lesson we've given to the world on this, even though I think what NATO's done and the world overall has been amazing. The sanctions have been amazing. The unity's been amazing. Tougher sanctions than we've ever done before, but still, we needed to go farther. We need to go farther, in my opinion. Very scary, to change topics, very scary story out of the Wall Street Journal today. Bellingcat, which is this independent research group of journalists and investigators. They're called Bellingcat, and they are very good. I mean, excellent. They uncover a not even a plot that apparently Russia. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this not definitive, to be totally honest, but it appears that Russia used chemical weapons to poison 2 Ukrainian senior negotiators at the peace talks, and the mediator, who was is a Russian oligarch by the name of what's his first name? Last name's Abramovich, Roman Abramovich. He's the guy that the U.S. isn't sanctioning because Israel asked us not to, and Zelensky may or may not have asked us not to because he wants to be a in-between player. So it seems that right-wingers in Russia wanted to torpedo the peace talks, and they poisoned Abramovich, who apparently his skin was peeling and he lost his vision for a while that evening, and 2 of the senior Ukrainian negotiators. And what's interesting, as I said, the Wall Street Journal reported on it, and hedged a little, because it's still being investigated. Bellingcat came out and said, we got our own chemical weapons experts. We brought them into the scene. They investigated everything. They investigated the health reaction and everything else. They said there's a very small chance that this was, microwave radiation, meaning, I think, like that whole weird thing that's going on with U.S. diplomats that are getting giving them headaches and problems with their heads and all this kind of stuff that might be radiation, but we don't know what it is. They said there's a small percentage that it's that, but it is almost guaranteed that a chemical weapon was used to poison these guys. But a small amount was used so that it wouldn't kill them, because the idea was to send them a lesson to say, we can get to you. How's that for a negotiation strategy? And, the big danger there is, if this is true, and it sure seems it's true, and it's sure consistent for the Russians. Remember, the Russians used chemical weapons against the Syrians. I mean, it was horrific what they did there against children there. This is consistent with what the Russians do, but it's also consistent with what they do in terms of being just ambiguous enough, right? Because they force us to say, well, it's pretty clear it was, this happened. Somebody just asked, when did this happen? This happened the day of March 3rd. They were negotiating for 10 hours with the Russians. I believe they were in Kyiv. They might have been, but they were negotiating for 10 hours with the Russians. They went back to their hotel rooms, and the three of them got sick that evening. Similar symptoms, the whole thing. But the Russians are just ambiguous enough the way they do this, right? So it's thank you. Was this really a chemical weapon? Well, we're almost 100% sure. Was it the Russians? Well, who else would have the motive, right? But you get this wonder, and were they killed? No, they were hurt, but they weren't killed. You get this wonderful ambiguity that becomes, now what do we do? Now what do we do? Because it wasn't like they gassed an entire city of people, right? So our whole red line that we gave them about don't you dare use chemical and nuclear and biological weapons, they crossed it already. And we're already in a position where, now what do we do? And I don't know what we do. I mean, I don't know what the government's going to do. I don't know. Let's see if this story deserves to get much bigger, because the problem is, if this is true, and it seems to be true, because I trust Bellingcat for sure, and the Journal investigated it as well. If this is true, thank you for that, we are sending a message to Putin if he gets away with this. If we don't respond in some very forceful way, then we've told him, I guess you can use chemical weapons and you can poison Ukrainians, and we're not necessarily going to do anything about it, even though we told you we would. That's the risk of this. Couple other stories, and then we can jump straight. Yeah, we're doing only 20 minutes. That's good. A couple other stories, and then we'll jump to the questions. And as I said, I'll hang out for questions for a good 55 minutes. Actually, let me look at one thing. I'm going to look at one quick thing in my settings, guys. Give me a second here. One quick sec. All right, I think I'm okay here. I was just looking at my settings to see, but there's all right. Sorry, guys. One last thing. That's what I'm looking for. Nope. Okay, that's fine. Just checking the settings. We're good. All right, so a couple more little small topics. These are more just things to mention. Russian economy. The estimate is, because of the sanctions, the Russian economy will shrink 22% this year. Now, what that means is the economy could shrink back to the size it was in 2007. In other words, 15 years of economic growth lost. That's a big deal. So that's a significant number. This was kind of a funny story. Ukraine doxed, and I'll tell you what that means in a minute, 620 Russian spies. The Ukrainians got their hands on a list of Russian spies, 620 of them from the FSB, which is pretty much the follow-on agency of the KGB. It tends to focus on internal security and also Ukraine, because they kind of broke it into two. They kind of like taking the CIA and making it two different things. But anyway, more or less, the Russian CIA is a good way of thinking of it. They found 620 spies and published who they were, their names, their addresses, their addresses, cell numbers, birthdays, car make, car license. So basically, these people are now no longer super duper double secret agents. They are now known to the world. I mean, really good. How they got it, who knows how they got it. But this was a very good burn. Bellingcat, this is a good story too, actually. We're having at least a good news day where it's not too much negative stuff. Actually, I'll stop with this story with Bellingcat. We can talk about wheat too. I did a little research on Ukrainian wheat and what's going on there with wheat around the world and food prices. If you want to, we can get into it in the Q&A, but I want to at least start it so we can start, because I think the questions are the most interesting part for you guys. So Bellingcat, that group I told you again, they're independent investigators, journalists, very trustworthy. Bellingcat says that the FSB, thank you, Maddie, by the way, the FSB, who's the group I just told you about, the Russian CIA, so to speak, their new KGB. The FSB paid rich Ukrainians, like some rich elite political class in Ukraine, paid them billions with a B, billions of US dollars to these people, so that once the Russian invaded, within a couple days, these people would stand up and cause a coup d'etat. Basically would stand up and somehow overthrow Zelensky and take over the government. Well, what happened was instead, the people took the money and did absolutely nothing, which I thought, what a great way to end this, my news update of the day. But the Ukrainian, the rich people in Ukraine said, oh yeah, Russia, we'll totally do your dirty work. Give us $5 billion. The Russians did, and they went, bye-bye. So that was pretty good. All right, that's what I got for the news. I'm going to jump right in. We've already got a super chat question from Trisha and Casey. I will, as always, like I said, I will always do the super chat questions first because folks have paid for them. I will then jump into the regular questions, including the questions on TikTok. So I will jump in there in a second, guys. But Trisha P asks, I hear there's a big fire near Chernobyl. Is it factual status? I was just, I'm not convinced because, let me tell you this. I was just reading up on Chernobyl. I kid you not, because every night you guys ask about Chernobyl. I Googled Chernobyl an hour ago as I was preparing for this. And the only big news that came up, which is big news, is the people running the plant say when the Russians came that first day, remember they were firing at the plant because they wanted to take it over. When the Russians came that first day, they were using, four-wheeled vehicles, whatever, that weren't protected. They were driving really fast through the land, and they were driving through an area that I guess is called the Red Forest. And it's an area that is contaminated by the nuclear, the nuclear, not even waste, the results of the nuclear meltdown that happened there. Just the nuclear pollution that came out, it's still in the soil, so that you really don't want to upset the soil. Well, these trucks came through, they kicked up all the soil, which is dangerous for the environment overall. But even worse, the Ukrainian experts are saying these Russian troops, at the very least, have put themselves at serious risk of internal organ damage, if not death, because they were breathing in this stuff. And of course, the Russians being the Russians, nobody told these guys that they were putting their lives at risk. It was just horrific. But no, I saw nothing about a big fire near Chernobyl. If anybody else has heard of anything, please do say. But there was nothing on that. Like I said, the big story about Chernobyl was this new one about the Russians basically poisoning their own troops, which is just horrific. Radiation poisoning. Casey, how many of the dox spies were U.S. congressmen? Casey asked how many of the doxed U.S. spies or Russian spies were congressmen. Be nice, Casey. We're trying not to get too political here, but that was cute. We got another question. Maria asks, on March 2nd, Christo Grozev, I saw that, suggested that Russia was close to running out of money to fund this war. I mean, I saw him is what I mean. Running out of money to fund this war. Do we know when this might actually happen? That's interesting. I have not heard a lot about them running out of money. I mean, the biggest problem the Russians have in this war is they're running out of men. First of all, that's the biggest problem, right? The Ukrainians have killed a lot of Russians. The number could easily be as many as 20,000 Russian troops killed now. That means that the number of Russian troops injured and put out of commission could easily be 40,000. That's 60,000 of the, 160,000 troops they sent. And keep in mind, when we talk about numbers like that, 160,000 troops that the Russians sent mean maybe 70,000 active duty fighting troops. It also includes engineers, doctors, mechanics, supply people, like all sorts of other people, right? Truck drivers. So of the fighting troops, a lot of the fighting troops have already been injured, killed, or put out of commission. They need more men, and they don't have it because Russia's such a big country. I also looked into this the other day because I was curious about it myself because one second here. The Russian disinformation people who adore my TikTok account we're saying things about, Russia has 1 million troops. So if they have 1 million troops, this just killing 20,000 and hurting another 40,000, that means nothing. They can bring 500,000 over. Well, the problem is Russia is so big. Russia is 11 time zones, literally 11 time zones, that the country is so freaking huge that you need 1 million troops to spread around the country. So they don't have troops to bring over. They brought their extra troops to Ukraine already. They don't have extra troops to bring. The other problem, that train is new. I've not seen that train before. Thank you for that, whoever did that on TikTok. The other problem is their tanks. Their best tanks have been destroyed by the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians that got their hands on a lot of the tanks as well from the Russians. So the Ukrainians actually have more tanks than they started with. The Russians have fewer. A lot of their planes have been hit. A lot of their other military equipment. They don't have food. They don't have water. They don't have fuel. Then north of Kyiv, as we said, the Ukrainian capital, the Ukrainians flooded the area in the north using a dam. So the Russian troops got caught there and couldn't do anything. I mean, I think the money will play a role here, but the problem is they don't have enough men and they don't have enough equipment. That's the problem right now. And their troops, the Ukrainians, have been fighting way too well, so their troops have been cut off from their supply lines in a lot of, especially around Kyiv, the capital. That's the problem. The other thing I was reading was, for example, drones. The kind of drones the Russians use, and these I think are the actual drones that have munitions on them, not just drones that are used for looking around and finding a target. These are the drones that I think fly around and maybe drop bombs. Either way, the Russians use a Sony camera for their drones. And it's some kind of Sony high-definition camera, which makes sense because the drone from really high up is looking, finding a target, zooming in. Well, they can't get any more Sony cameras because of the sanction to make any more drones. So you're finding that a lot of the equipment needs of the Russians, just what the spare parts they need, they can't get to rebuild the rest of their military. So I don't know about the money, but if this goes long term, this is why, first of all, this is why also they're talking about bringing in weapons from other people. That train again, thank you on TikTok. There was a report today, we don't know if it's true, but Turkish intelligence says that Armenia sent 4 fighter jets with pilots to help Russia. We know that the Russians have been getting extra troops from Chechnya. They claim they're getting them from Syria. We also know a report today, I forgot to mention it, that the Russians are bringing in or have brought in 1,000 mercenaries from the Wagner Group, which is this, thank you, TikTok person, the Wagner Group, which is this mercenary for hire kind of sort of affiliated with an oligarch who's close to Putin, who they call Putin's chef because he's so close to Putin. And and Bellingcat has done a lot of, Bellingcat again, Google their name because they're great researchers, did a lot of the research on Wagner. The work Wagner did in Syria, sound familiar? Oh, Wagner, by the way, the Wagner Group, you may remember in Syria, and we're talking now, I don't know, 2016 maybe or so-ish, and how at one point the U.S. killed like 200 or 300 Russian troops in Syria, and it didn't cause a war, didn't cause a nuclear war. Well, the troops we killed were this Wagner Group. Thank you again for that train. Were this Wagner Group, these Russian mercenaries. So these are the same guys. A lot of them have experience fighting in Syria. They're very hardened, and they're bad news. I mean, they're bad news. So, but this is, and I'll go on sort of from here, but that is all the more, he's bringing them in all the more, Maria, because he's having such a hard time winning this war with the troops and the equipment he's got, because he's losing the troops and the equipment, Putin is. So, all right, guys, let me remove that. See if we have anything else here. Chloe Reitherman. How likely do you think it is that Russia will move on taking Lviv, since they are the main supply line to Kyiv? That's still up for grabs. So Lviv is very large Ukrainian city in the West. I'm going to guess the largest city in the West. So far has only seen some action because the Russians have focused a lot on Kyiv, the capital. Basically, Kyiv going down, more or less Ukrainian map, but Kyiv going down, that half of the country. So Odessa, Kyiv, go east, and you get Kharkiv, you get Mariupol, you get all of these towns you've heard of, Melitopol, Irpin, right? All these towns we've been talking about are at Kyiv and Odessa going east. Well, west is Lviv. Lviv is the town where the Russians this weekend blew up on Saturday. And again, has to be because Biden was speaking and attending in Poland, a couple hundred miles away. They blew up thank you for that on TikTok, by the way. The Russians blew up an oil refinery or oil reserves. And that's Lviv. So the question has been, to what degree are the Russians going to go after Lviv and frankly, other cities out there in the West, or were they just going to focus east? Now, part of the problem becomes, do you believe the Russians? Well, no, let me step back. I believe the U.S. military analysts who tell me that the Russians are really up, S Creek in Kyiv, the capital. They are having a very hard time around Kyiv. The Ukrainians have now put them on the defensive. The Ukrainians are at risk of capturing or killing 10,000 Russian troops north of Kyiv. I mean, very significant. So we know the Russians are in trouble there. We know the Russians claimed this weekend that we never wanted to capture Kyiv. That was never our plan, right? Like, yeah, sure. Of course it was your plan. Putin's plan was, thank you for the roses, by the way. Putin's plan was day 3 of the invasion, he was going to capture Kyiv. We are now is it the 30th day now? I know it's been a month, but 30 days now-ish, they didn't capture Kyiv. So, my very long answer to are they going to go after Lviv in the West is, we know Russia has had a very hard time with everywhere else in the country, and now they're focusing a lot in the East, and they still want that. Thank you for that. They still want that land corridor in the southeast of Ukraine connecting the eastern provinces to Crimea. Do they really want to go after Lviv as well? Now, sending cruise missiles, yes, they can easily send cruise missiles. They've still got a lot of them left, although they've used a lot of them. But do they want to send men? Probably not. To have a 5th front in the war when the other 4 fronts are going in. Now, the wild card there is, you've heard this talk about Belarus and how Belarus is the country. I always like to say, like, if this is Ukraine and the northwest right above it is Belarus, the northeast right above it is Russia. So Belarus, the Russians used to send their troops through and come down into Ukraine to create another front in the war. Slippers, thank you. Another front in the war. And the thought now is Belarus going to enter the war and send maybe 20,000 of its own men to come down into either Western Ukraine to Lviv, which Chloe asked about, or come down and go for Kyiv, the capital? Either way, will Belarus open another front in the war by sending in 20,000 more men? We don't know. There are conflicting intelligence estimates of this between NATO and the U.S. I think NATO said they're not sure. U.S. said they think they might. So it's this very sort of, I'm going to turn off my sound so we don't have to hear that again. It's very all over the place. But a lot of it's going to come down to, I think, whether Belarus enters the war, which is also iffy because he's a dictator, but he's a very unpopular dictator, Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus. And it's not thought that the military or the civilians are very happy about going to war. So that's my answer on that. Lori, as I said, folks, I answer the super chat first, and then we do the general questions. So, Lori, there's a Ukrainian name here, so I'm going to put on my glasses so I get it right. Did you hear about the mayor of Balaklia, Ivan Stolbovoy, went to cooperate with the Russian occupiers? I did, yes. There's a mayor. There's also a governor of, I'm forgetting where. There's a governor as well of one of the regions that's cooperating with the Russians. Not surprised that it's happening in some of the places, but who knows? I'm not sure it's terribly significant. 1 or 2 governors or 1 or 2 mayors. Also, a point that somebody raised. Remember that one mayor, they had kidnapped a number. Well, actually, they killed the mayor. They killed. Remember one of the first mayors the Russians killed, and he was delivering. I remember it was bread. It was humanitarian aid, but it was bread. He was delivering bread, giving out bread and other aid to the citizens, and the Russians shot him dead. Well, they put in a puppet in his place, this woman who, said, oh, we need to live under the new order and this kind of stuff. And we were all criticizing her as a traitor. And somebody said, and I thought it was a good observation, somebody said, you don't know whether her whole family was kidnapped. You don't know whether the Russians killed her husband and threatened to kill her kids. And knowing the Russians as we do, especially now being reminded of what we've seen in the war, it's entirely possible that some of these mayors have been threatened with their families, and they're saying it for that reason. I'm not saying that that is a justification for treason, so to speak, but I'm a little more understanding of it, so to speak, if that's what's going on. So anyway, that's my take on that. But yeah, there are several of them doing it. I'm not sure it's significant yet. Just making sure. Stormy, thank you for the super sticker. All right, I am going to jump to a TikTok question. Hang on, TikTokers. Q&A. What do we got here? We don't know yet. Cynthia 69 says, did Russia get control of Mariupol? That's the one I was telling you that's in the south. I'll highlight your question while I say this. Oops. Here we go. There we go. That's the town that's in the south that's really key right now. It is right in the middle of that whole area that Russia's trying to occupy, right? They claim Crimea as part of Russia. They want that land corridor, and then they've got the eastern provinces of Ukraine that also, they claim are now independent. Mariupol's right in the middle, and it's one of the last, if not the last, holdout that Russia needs to claim that corridor, right? So what I've been seeing is Mariupol is still holding out. There's something like 160,000 citizens still there, which is crazy because this has been weeks of no food, no water, no heat, right? In a town that's had winter temperatures. It's finally getting to be spring there, but up until now it's been freezing. And the mayor there is saying they're on the verge of a humanitarian disaster because of the lack of food and everything else. But the townspeople keep fighting. The concern is, not just the townspeople, the Ukrainian forces as well. Thank you for that, the little owl. The concern is, to what degree can Mariupol hold out? I was reading reports today that there are thoughts that Mariupol can't hold out much longer and the Russians are going to get it. Then the question becomes, can they hold it? Ukrainian forces coming back and pushing them out. But as of now, that's the latest with Mariupol. Let me remove, and I will do another TikTok question. Remove. No, not the, this one, we mentioned it earlier, but we could talk a little more about it. Hang on. Oops, there we go. Sorry, I was checking out your name. Crowded Elevator. Your guys' names crack me up. Crowded Elevator asks, any updates on the 10,000 trapped Russian troops? So those are the troops I was telling you that are in north of Kyiv, the capital. And basically, the Ukrainians cut off their supply lines. I'm going to get a sip of water and then we'll keep talking. The Ukrainians cut off their supply lines. Remember that 40-mile long convoy that we all heard about? The Ukrainians stopped that thing dead. They've been picking it off. At this point, I guarantee you that convoy doesn't exist anymore. There's probably there's no more fuel, there's no more food, there's no more anything. The convoy was dead and stopped, and it was over, and the troops fled. So what that was food and water and ammunition and fuel, all the more important, fuel, right? These jeeps or whatever you want to call them, these infantry fighting vehicles, these tanks, they need gas. They need diesel fuel. Tanks need to be refueled once every day or two. This war's been going on for a month. Well, the Ukrainians cut off that 40-mile long convoy, and they cut off all the supplies coming to the troops north of Kyiv. So the Russian troops have frostbite. By one report, one Russian soldier was heard saying that 50% of his comrades fighting have frostbite on their feet. They don't have food. They don't have water. Their morale is terrible. They were lied to from all reports. They were told they were going on, it's not funny. I'm just like laughing in sort of sympathy almost. They were told they were going on military exercises, but they were really going to attack Ukraine. So these guys, and a lot of these guys are very young and they're very new. So, anyway, they're not in good shape, but yeah, no news yet other than we have seen videos. We are starting to see videos of troops, of POWs, Russian POWs. So that's begun, and that was one of the predictions that General Hertling, who's a former U.S. general who I like a lot, he's on CNN, he's one of their commentators, and Hertling had said that basically, just looking here, I can see my phone. I'm going to see if hold on a second, lift my phone. I can tell, all righty, there we go. I could tell on TikTok every time I was putting my arm on the table, My camera was shaking. Let's see if it still shakes once it slows down. But Hertling was saying you're going to start seeing more and more videos of Russian POWs coming out of the Kyiv area, and those are POWs that are caught because of these 10,000. So that's the update on the 10,000. Let me remove that question. All right, now let me look and see. I will look for a question on the YouTubers. Yeah, I mean, the missiles are interesting. I mean, Maddie Man said the Russians are out of missiles. They're trying to build them fast. That's why they only work less than 40% of the time. Yeah, I mean, the estimates are that the Russian missiles are working, are having, I don't know whether you want to call it a misfire or whatever, but they're having a failure rate of 60%, 60. And a failure rate anything over 20% is horrible. So yeah, the missile thing is really bad. Hold on, just looking. So I love when you guys all talk amongst yourselves, but then on YouTube, but then you don't post questions, which is funny. There we go. Okay, Casey asked a question. I mean, otherwise I'd go back to TikTok because there's a lot of TikTok. We've got about 50 TikTok questions queued up. Casey asked, what impact generally will the attacks on fuel infrastructure in Lviv cause for Ukraine? I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I'm not an expert on Ukrainian fuel, but obviously, okay, let me say this. I do know that Ukraine is short of fuel, that's already been an issue. And I know because I saw today or yesterday, Ukraine had reached some deal with, I want to say, the EU for getting, whether it's natural gas or something that the EU is providing. Oh, no, I think they're selling. Are the Ukrainians selling it to the EU? I think it might have even been the Ukrainians' exports. I've got to look at this again. I wasn't prepared for an energy question, but I almost want to say Ukraine was starting to sell it again. So I don't know what the fuel situation is. I mean, the obvious goal of the Russians would be blow up the fuel, because if you can blow up the Ukrainians' fuel, then they have the same problem the Russians have. They've got tanks, they've got armored vehicles, they've got people in cars, they've got tractors pulling tanks. All of those things need fuel, So, I mean, that's sort of the obvious answer, but I'm not sure what the overall fuel situation is like in Ukraine as far as whether they're having fuel shortages or not. Now, I did not see that, although I'm not surprised. Jamie J says, did anyone see that Russia threatened to cut Europe from all gas and from all oil and natural gas? Europe gets a ton of oil and natural gas from Russia. The thing is, Jamie, what people were saying is that before the war started, people said, yeah, Russia's going to probably threaten to cut off all oil and gas to Europe. The problem is Russia needs to, thank you for those balloons. I've not seen those before. Russia needs to sell oil and natural gas because that's where most of Russia's money comes from. And the question that, was it Maria, I'm forgetting, that asked earlier about money, that's what really would hurt Russia, is to cut off the oil and gas sales. That's the reason Europe won't do it, especially Europe, is because Europe gets so much of its oil and gas from Russia. I believe Germany, the figure I keep citing, is 40% of their fuel comes from Russia. That's a lot of fuel to cut off. Now, Germany is making heroic strides towards getting off of, I think, like half of Russian fuel by the summer and maybe all of it by winter, by Christmas, they said, or so, more or less. But nonetheless, it's a two-sided coin in that Europe can't really afford to get off Russian oil and gas, and the Russians can't afford to cut off Europe because they're getting so much money from the oil and gas sales, and it's the only real money Russia's getting. So if Russia were to boycott selling oil to Europe and natural gas to Europe, Russia would be toast. Russia would be toast. So I think it's a cute little thread, and that's it. Oh, thanks, Ryan. Ryan Hall asked, how is my friend Vlad doing? Just to tell folks, my friend Vlad is somebody we had on the show. He joined us on TikTok, actually, on the TikTok, sort of as a live guest. God, right after the war started, maybe it was like a week after or so. And Vlad has a wife, a 3-year-old daughter, his parents, his wife's parents, and his wife's grandparents are still alive. They're like almost 90. And he wanted to get his family out. They're from Kharkiv. Thank you, TikTok, for that. They're in Kharkiv, which is the second largest city in Ukraine, 1.5 million people. And that's a city that's getting just obliterated by the Russians. Obliterated. Well, he wanted to get he wanted to get his whole family out of there. I mean, he didn't mind himself being there, but the wife, the parents, the grandparents, and your 3-year-old daughter, especially, forget it. So arranged to get the whole family out of there. They were going to move to a different part of the country. The war started before they even expected it. They got out. It was very harrowing. The whole family's together in southwestern Ukraine now. they're still there. They needed some economic help because, and this was an interesting thing actually that I hadn't even thought about until you guys brought it up, but his family's staying in a hotel, and the hotel is charging them $100 a night. And for nothing special, it's like 1 or 2 rooms. They've got 5 of them in there. And you guys had said, like, what do you mean they're charging him? I guess when it comes down to it, the hotels have to make money too, because they themselves need to pay their rent or their mortgage or whatever it is. They've got to buy their own food. So anyway, the hotel was charging them $100 a month. You guys chipped in, TikTok and YouTube both. We were able to pay off Vlad's family's bill for a month. And our promise was that if you gave more money, Vlad needed about $2,500. If you gave more money, he was going to distribute it around to other refugee families. You did. The last number was around 15,000. I don't know that much more else has come in by PayPal. Literally, I was messaging with Vlad today, and tomorrow we're going to have a call where he's going to just sort of go over the money and tell me more about who was spent on what and if there's any more. I don't know whether any more has come in. I only see the money coming to me, which hasn't been very much, but we give Vlad's PayPal, which anyway, Vlad is still collecting money around the country or for the people in the country. He's helped a lot of families. My favorite story to tell is because I've seen their Instagram account. I'm not sharing it just because I'm still a little creeped out. Like I don't want too much information out there about Ukrainians doing good things. But there are people in Kharkiv, Vlad's hometown, that are going and buying food, like foodstuffs, the basics of food, and they're cooking huge meals, and then they're delivering the meals. Like in America, we'd call that Meals on Wheels, I guess. They're delivering the meals to people. They're bringing them clothing, and they're bringing them medicines. Because think about this, right? The economy's kind of shut down in a town that's getting bombed. Like, how do you go to the store? Does the store even have food? How do you go pick up medicine? Are medicines even getting delivered to the pharmacies? But also, if you're in a fallout shelter, if you're down in the subway, which a lot of these people are, you grabbed whatever you could. You grabbed your pet. I probably would have grabbed a month of food for the dog and a day of food for myself, but you probably wouldn't bring a change of clothes. And after 30 days, even if you got a change of clothes. So basically, we're at the point now where these people need new clothes. Anyway, Vlad donated a chunk of your guys' donations to the group in Kharkiv that is making food and then delivering food, clothes, and medicine to people around the town, which I thought was just wonderful. So anyway, thank you all for that. It was a long-winded answer to Vlad, but I thought it was important because it's very cool what he's doing, and it's also very cool that you guys help. If you still want to help, he's still distributing money to the folks who need it, and certainly that group in Kharkiv. Vlad's PayPal, I saw that the moderators put on YouTube. You can easily find it in my account. If you go to my TikTok profile, you'll see, that one URL, you're allowed to put the link. It says beacons.ai or whatever. Click that link and you'll find a page that gives you a lot of different things, including my LinkedIn, stuff like that. You can donate to me too, but you'll find Vlad's PayPal at the top. Use that if you want and just send money directly to Vlad. Send him a note. He and his wife cried at first when you guys first over that weekend sent all the donations. He finally showed me some of them. So many of you wrote comments. He and his wife were crying reading the comments. I mean, it was like so lovely what you guys did. So if you want to help Vlad help more people, I'm certainly not taking a cut. He's not either. Feel free to use his PayPal, or if you need to, you can send it to my Cash App or my Venmo and just write as the comment or the message for Vlad, so I know it's not a donation to me. If you want to donate to support my work, say for John, but otherwise, I'm assuming right now that the money coming in there is for Vlad. So I've been sending that to him too. And again, I'm not taking any money at all from that. I will only, I will accept your donations for my work, but this is the free stuff because these are your gifts that we are gifting to Vlad. That's it. These are gifts. That's all it is. So anyway, thank you all for that. Sorry, let me see. That was just, okay. Daniel, hang on. I'm trying to find your, here it is. So I can post it up here. Daniel O'Neill says, I heard something about a French, Greek, Turkish rescue operation to Mariupol. Yes. Any news on that and how it might work? They were talking about doing some kind of humanitarian corridor rescue. So it's not a military rescue of like the town. It's a humanitarian rescue of the people there. Mariupol, which again, this is the town we talk about that the Ukrainians are are still in control. The Russians have been circling them, beating them, destroying. It's the town the Russians blew up the maternity hospital. It's the town the Russians blew up the theater that said children on it. It is the town where food, water, heat has been cut off for 3+ weeks now. I mean, these people it's horrific what these people are undergoing. There's still, I read today, 160,000, I believe, civilians in the town. And what I did not know is it is a center for the Greek community in Ukraine. And I'm Greek. I had no idea there even was a Greek community in Ukraine, let alone this is where it is. So I knew that that Greece, and I thought I'd read Turkey. I wasn't sure about France and Turkey, but I read about Greece and Turkey. I thought it doesn't matter. Anyway, Daniel says French, Greek, and Turkey, talking about trying to create some kind of a humanitarian corridor where those civilians, if they want to leave, can leave peacefully. The problem is the Russians have a nasty habit of killing civilians and even killing them when they create humanitarian corridors. They did it in Syria, and they even did it in Ukraine earlier this month. If you remember there was if you were watching CNN at least, there were these people escaping this town, and Clarissa Ward was there, who's thank you for that, one of CNN's really top correspondents, a blonde woman. I think it was I shouldn't say that. I think it was Clarissa. Yes, it was Clarissa Ward. She's there, and there's an underpass people have to go through, the refugees, to get out of the town because the town's being just destroyed. And it might have even been north of Ukraine. It might have been that area. Anyway, Clarissa's there. The refugees are coming up. She's actually helping them. The next day, the Russians bombed the very place that the refugees were coming through. I mean, they literally establish humanitarian corridors. They get all the civilians together and they bomb them. They did this also to Ukrainian troops back in 2014 when they invaded. They set up like a humanitarian corridor for the troops to basically evacuate and leave, basically saying, okay, if you evacuate this town, we're going to take it and we'll let you leave. Well, they set up the time and date. The troops got together, 400 Ukrainian troops. They killed them all. So this is what the Russians do when they establish humanitarian corridors, when they say, oh, we'll have a pause in the war and let the people go. That's why you'd need some kind of a guarantee from foreign powers. But I don't know. I guess what you would have to do, and this is the only kind of rescue I could see working, the people have to want to leave. And I think a lot of those people might say, screw you, Russia, we're staying and we're fighting, right? If they can survive to do it. Second of all, you would need French, Greek, and Turkish troops in the town to help, because you would have to guarantee that the Russians aren't going to bomb, that the Russians know if they bomb, they're killing NATO troops, and then we're at war. So let's see if France, Greeks, and Turkey are okay with that. But that's the only way I could see it working, Daniel. But hopefully, if the people want to be helped, they can help. Taryn, thank you for that. Very sweet of you. Let me jump to another TikTok question. Hang on. I like to, once the light starts going down, I like to put my, there we go, a little higher. Q&A on TikTok. Totally possible anonymous gave the Ukrainians a list of spies. Yep. Well, I mean, a general question, but an interesting question. Your name is Fancy Cat. Fancy Cat asks, do you think they will come to peace terms, meaning the Ukrainians? No problem, Daniel. Meaning the Ukrainians and the Russians. At this point, no. Because at this point, well, there's a couple problems. Putin's the bigger problem. I mean, he's the bigger jerk, but also Putin is, may not be losing, but he's not winning. And if the Russians aren't winning, they're losing. This was a war that the great, powerful Oz of Russia was supposed to win in 3 days. It's been a month. Yeah, thank you for that on TikTok. It's been a month. They're still not winning, right? They've got some land. Maybe they're going to get Mariupol, but they're losing the suburbs of the north, and they may even get 10,000 of their troops captured in the north or killed in the north, right? So this has been an embarrassment for Putin and an embarrassment for the Russian army. So they've got to be careful. Did my TikTok freeze? Really? I can exit and go back in again. TikTokers, am I totally frozen here? Hold on. Oh, the TikTokers are saying it too. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to exit and come back in. Sorry, guys. All right. I'm exiting and coming back in. And now, I hate that. I hate that. There we go. Ooh. Weird. I hate that. Sorry, guys. Hang on a second, YouTubers. The TikTokers are being invited back right now. All right. Hey, TikTokers. Sorry about that. I must have frozen. That was weird. All right. Now I'm trying to see if there's any way to make my face just a little less orange. Hang on a sec. Effects. One moment here. Going to one more thing here. Enhance, maybe? Enhance. There we go. There we go. Now I am not Orange Man on TikTok. Sorry about that, TikTokers. That was weird. Yeah, thank you for the folks here letting me know on YouTube that TikTok froze. That's weird. The weird part was I was able to see on TikTok everything coming by. So I was still able to see all your questions and comments. I didn't know that I was frozen. That's totally bizarre. Maybe the Russians are back. Look out. Sorry, guys. At least, I hope you guys come back. I think we still had a couple thousand people here. All right, I'm jumping in again. Sorry, that was totally bizarre. Sorry about that, guys, on TikTok. All right, we got 1,000 of you back. That's good. So we were talking about could they reach peace? And what I was saying when I got frozen was that I wonder whether the Russians in particular, I wonder whether the Russians can afford to have peace because they're not doing well. You know, hang on a second. I'm doing my, oops, there we go. All right. I'm adjusting. I've got my little controller to my my light up there. It's okay. It's a little bright, but we'll live. You guys are a little dark and you guys are a little bright. The combo will work well enough, I think. Yeah, it's good enough. And I just think the Russians have done so poorly that I'm not sure that the Russians can afford not to win. And not to whether the Russians can afford peace. The Ukrainians can afford peace. The problem for the Ukrainians is going to be, can they afford, just giving more light here, can they afford giving up land? You know what I mean? Can the Ukrainians afford giving up land? Are they going to agree to give up Crimea, for example? I'm not sure they will, you know? So that's going to be, I mean, that's a real problem for, that's a real problem for the Ukrainians. So I don't know. I think right now, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening right now. Wait, tell me it didn't. Okay, you know what happens? It did it again? God damn it. All right. All right, I figured out why. Sorry, guys, and I swore. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, YouTube. All right, so I know what's happening. I'm going to stop doing it. I go and I actually try to, when I try to put more light on the screen for myself to better see the screen, when I take my iPhone, it's actually screwing it up. Sorry, TikTokers. I figured out the problem. All right. Let's take a quick second for the TikTokers to come back. I'm not going to do it again, I promise. I figured out what it is. Yes, the problem is when I go to my phone, because it's getting dark now, my screen was kind of dark. And to see my screen better, I hit the brightness. When I hit the brightness, it freezes me out of TikTok. So sorry, TikTokers. I totally screwed that up. All right. I'll just give the quick summary again. I don't want to do it again. But bottom line is it's not clear that Russia can afford to reach peace because they're doing so poorly. And it's also not clear what terms the Ukrainians can accept because for the Ukrainians, they can't afford to give up land. And even more than, and sorry, I was just saying, TikTokers, I realized what I was doing. Every time I go to my iPhone and I adjust the brightness on my iPhone because I couldn't see you, it knocks me out of TikTok. So I'm never doing that again. You're a little dark, but I get my glasses on. I can see the comments. So I'm not touching it again. But in any case, yeah. So the Ukrainians, Putin, for example, Putin wants the Ukrainians to recognize Crimea, the land he stole in the southern Ukraine in 2014. He wants them to recognize it as officially Russia for eternity. There's no way Ukraine's going to ever accept that. I don't think there's any way they can ever accept that, no matter how many casualties they have, right? So I don't think so. No, Kim, I've been screwing it up. It's my mistake. I was adjusting the brightness on my phone, and that was just enough to screw things up. Welcome, TikTokers. We are in the middle of talking about my Russia update. We've got a whole slew of new TikTokers that came in because we had to restart. I am taking your questions and their questions on YouTube as well about the latest in Ukraine. Let me go to a TikTok question since we are here and since I gave you guys such a hard time by accidentally taking you out. Feel free to put more questions. It actually wiped out a lot of your questions, so feel free to put them there. Well, that's the interesting question. So, I mean, Ashley asks about Anonymous. Did Anonymous hack Russia's defense info? Anonymous has been doing a lot of interesting stuff. Is that Lisa? Sorry, I want to see your name. Livia? Licia, thank you for that. Anonymous is a hacker collective. They are a sort of disparate group of computer hackers around the world. They're not really one organization. It's always important to explain who they are because people sometimes think I thought at one time that they're this actual group of people, and they're not really a group of people. They're a bunch of people all over the world who kind of coordinate, but not really. And a lot of them seem to have been hacking a lot of information from Russia. They say they got some central bank information. They say that they had hacked a bank early on in Russia and put its information online. It is entirely possible that Anonymous got the list of 602 FSB, who are basically Russian CIA agents who were outed to the world by the Ukrainians today. 602 of the spies were outed online. It's entirely possible that stuff's coming from Anonymous. Anonymous has been doing very good things, and God bless what they've been doing. Anonymous has decided that they want to fight for Ukraine, and God bless them if they want to fight for Ukraine. I always say, I don't have a lot of problems with Anonymous anyway, to be honest, but also if, when you're talking about do or die in the lives of kids and everything else and citizens, I'm willing to work with almost anybody, but also Anonymous doesn't even vaguely get into my category of somebody I'm afraid of working with. They've done some really great thing. Can we send the planes now? I wish we could send the planes. Now, Kellen asks, can we send the planes? Now, Kellen is talking about the issue of Poland several weeks ago, saying that it was willing to send some of its MiG fighter jets to Ukraine because Ukraine also uses MiG fighter jets, and therefore it would be easier for the two of them, right? It would be easier for Ukraine to use planes that are very similar to the planes it's got. Well, remember what Poland said, but we want to give them to America and have America give the planes to Ukraine so Russia doesn't get mad at us. And America said, we're not giving the planes because we don't want to make Putin mad. So nobody gave Ukraine the planes. And the other thing that really ticked me off was our experts here in the States from our government, but also on TV, the former generals, most of them, not all of them, were saying things like, these fighter jets won't help the Ukrainians. That's not what they need. And I'm sitting here going, you know what? First of all, how do you know what they need? Second of all, the Ukrainians have done an amazing job fighting this war, a way better war than anybody here thought they could do. So maybe they do know more about what they're doing than we do because the Ukrainians have been winning this war and we've been helping them. I mean, we've been doing a great job helping them. But I think if the Ukrainian military is still saying one of their top requests is more fighter jets, then they need fighter jets and they can use fighter jets. I wish we would give them to them. The final issue to say on that, and it still is an issue for me personally, is the argument our governments are using, all of our governments in the West are using is, if we give planes to Ukraine, not pilots, if we simply give our airplanes, our MiG fighter jets to them that Poland has, that would be an escalation that Putin would take as an act of war and he'd go to war with NATO. And I'm going, wait a minute. So we can give Ukraine shoulder-launched rocket-propelled grenades that kill people in tanks. We can give the Ukrainians these whatchamacallums, the anti-tank. I was going to say lavender. It's not lavender. I know the name. The anti-tank weapons that they've got on the shoulder, right? Forgetting the damn name. But we can give them that, and they can use that to blow up tanks. But when we give them a plane, and the plane is used to kill some Russian soldiers, suddenly that's an act of war. But it's okay for us to give them all sorts of other equipment that'll kill Russian soldiers. I think it's a bogus argument. I think it showed weakness on our part. And, I do say send them the planes. I don't think it makes a difference, but our leaders have clearly think it does make a difference, and I think they're wrong. And by the way, follow me, folks. I always forget to ask you to follow me. Please do follow me because I do updates all day long, as you can see from my feed. But I also then once a night, weekdays at 7 p.m. Eastern for an hour hour 15. Today I'll probably go a little longer because I'm feeling in good spirits. But at least for an hour 15, we go through the substance and I answer your questions. The javelins, thank you. Yes, they're the javelins, which are the shoulder-launched missiles used for blowing up tanks that the Ukrainians have done a great job with. But in any case, I'm usually here for an hour and 15 minutes. We start at 7 p.m. Eastern every weeknight, and that's 11 p.m. UTC. And that's Washington, D.C. time. Maybe that's the easiest way. 7 p.m. Washington, D.C. time every weeknight. And then weekends, we're doing 1 p.m. So tomorrow will be 7 p.m. as well. Ilsia, getting dyslexic. Lesia73 asks on YouTube, do you think after this, Ukraine will invest in nuclear weapons since nobody came for their aid after they gave them up? The problem becomes with that, will Russia let Ukraine invest in nuclear weapons? Having said that, it also depends to what degree, does Ukraine actually win this war? Could Ukraine win this war? A lot of people still think there's no way they could win it, but they could certainly maybe bog down the Russians so much that the Russians don't have a choice, right? But would the Russians allow them to go nuclear? I'm not so sure about that. I don't know. If I were Ukraine, putting the Russians aside, I would say absolutely. If I were Ukrainian, I'd be saying we shouldn't have given up our nukes, right? And I've told this story earlier tonight. I'll tell it again really quickly since a lot of you, you guys come in and out. Back in 1994, the Ukrainians had 5,000 or so nuclear weapons. They inherited them from the Soviet Union because Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. 1991, the Soviet Union dissolves and goes away. Ukraine becomes an independent country, and it's got 5,000 nukes on its soil, or so. It's 5,000 or 6,000. Well, the West and the Russians get together, U.S., United Kingdom, Russia, and we say, thank you, all the TikTok thingies, and we say, Ukraine, give up your nuclear missiles, and we will guarantee your sovereignty. You will never have to worry about your borders again. Ukraine does it. What happens? 2014, the Russians invade. The Russians steal Crimea, this huge chunk of land in southern Ukraine. The Russians say, it's now Russia. What do? Nothing. I mean, some sanctions, but we do absolutely nothing. So much for that treaty. Or memorandum, it's called. What same difference? This time the Russians, the Bucharest memorandum, exactly. This time the Russians come in again. Bucharest or Budapest? Isn't it Budapest instead of Bucharest? Anyways, it's called a memorandum. But this time, the Russians invade again. And yes, we're providing a lot of support, but we are not guaranteeing their security. We are not guaranteeing their borders. We did not say, if you invade Ukraine, right? We knew for 6 months or so that Russia was coming for Ukraine. And Biden even said, remember, a lot of people didn't believe it. And Biden said, the Russians are going to invade. Even some of the Ukrainians criticized Biden for saying the Russians are going to invade, right? So we knew they were coming. And we didn't say, hey, we've got a memorandum with, Budapest is what I thought it was. Yeah, the Budapest memorandum that says we've got to help Ukraine defend its borders. No, we said, we really can't get involved because it'll be World War III and So, so if I were Ukraine right now, no guarantee from anybody about protecting their sovereignty would I accept. Ukraine should have never given up its nuclear weapons. And if I were any other country with nuclear weapons, I wouldn't give them up. And if I were a country without them, I'd be trying to get them. And that is how screwed up this situation is today. I'm not saying I want other countries to get them. I'm not saying I want other countries to keep them. But I'm saying if I were those countries, that is the lesson I would take from Ukraine, is nobody will come to defend you and nobody will protect you even if they say they'll protect you. So don't give them up. It's an awful message we just sent to the world. And I agree, it's complicated because we are dealing with nuclear weapons and we are dealing with Russia being a nuclear state, right? So that does make it hard. But, let me grab another TikTok question from you all. All right. That's a really interesting question. Vintage Puzzling asks on TikTok, will compassion fatigue reduce help for Ukraine? Now, compassion fatigue, basically, I think it can have a couple different meanings, but the basic idea is, will we get tired of caring? Will we see so much violence day after day and, children getting killed and women and all the atrocities by Russia that we reach a point where we just tune out? It just becomes too sad. And maybe even more than sad, it could also become that you become resistant to it. that you kind of go, oh yeah, Ukraine, more Russia stuff. Okay, yeah, it's horrible. And then you just go back to your work and you go back to what you're doing. I do think that's a risk. And that is particularly a risk. It is not a risk for it's not a risk for our government, I think, in the U.S. in terms of security, because we have always perceived Russia as a bigger threat, a bigger defense threat than economic opportunity, right? We do not perceive Russia as a big economic opportunity, and defense-wise, we do not trust them. We do not like them. So I think the U.S. is going to hold relatively firm. The concern is for Europe, we've already seen in France, Renault tried to get back in last week, got the bejesus beaten out of them. Renault opened up its plants again in Russia, and everybody went so crazy worldwide that they closed them again. There's the French supermarket chain called Auchan, Auchan. They said they're not closing their stores in Russia, and they made this whole thing like, for humanitarian reasons, they can't close their stores. And I'm reading this thinking like, wow, these guys must make baby food or something. They're a supermarket chain. They don't make baby food. They're supermarkets. The Russians have other supermarkets. I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, I worry about that fatigue kicking in, which is companies in the West pressuring our governments and saying, it's been a month or two. I know the Ukrainians are in trouble, but we're losing a lot of money. And then they wimp out. So that's going to be your job and all of our job to keep ourselves interested, but also to keep our governments interested. Let me see here. I'll grab another TikTok since we've been doing a lot of YouTube questions in a row. Well, that was, again, Pamela mentioned something I mentioned earlier. There is a report today. Turkish intelligence says that Armenia sent jets to Russia, that they sent, they're these Su-30s, they're called. They're fighter jets to Russia. 4 of them with pilots is the claim. And she asks, rightfully, does that mean NATO will send jets now? Of course, NATO will get cold feet. I guarantee you, NATO's not going to send the jets. But it's an interesting question as to whether Armenia did. Some people think Turkish intelligence got it wrong, and they're not willing. I was seeing sort of the experts. I follow a lot of the experts on Twitter, the foreign policy folks, and they were debating this, and they kind of felt they're not willing to believe the story yet until they get some kind of independent confirmation. I wish it would change our mind. If the story is true, I still think NATO is going to say it's too dangerous. We don't want to get planes. They're going to have the same, so that basically other countries can keep helping Russia, but we can't. And not helping. Other countries can get involved in the war, but we can't. So I obviously disagree with the plane thing. I think the plane thing is stupid because how hard, we're already killing Russian troops. Our weapons are already killing Russian troops. So we give them planes to do it. How is that different than giving them Javelin shoulder-fired missiles that blow up tanks? It's still killing a guy in a tank. The Russians are going to say, well, that was a shoulder missile you're using to kill. A plane using to kill, that's an act of war. But feel free to kill our troops using shoulder missiles. Come on. I just think it's BS. And frankly, it makes us look weak. And I almost think it emboldens the Russians even more, which I don't like. Okay, that's an interesting question. Jamal J222 asks why Russia does not want NATO in Finland or Georgia. Now, I will flip the statement around. Why Russia does not want Georgia or Finland, or Ukraine for that matter, to join NATO. So, Russia, and I don't even know if this is true, because a Russian official admitted in the 1990s that NATO was like the best thing out there, taking the former Eastern European countries and putting them into a pact that was basically making them more pacifist themselves. So they were less of a threat to Russia because, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, all of these countries that were joining NATO. By joining NATO, it was less likely that Poland would get into a war with Russia because because Poland had NATO to worry about, right? So I don't necessarily believe that the Russians are really worried about NATO, but they claim they are. So what the Russians claim is, oh my God, NATO is so scary. NATO's whole purpose is to attack us and destroy our country. And every time you add a new country, you're an even bigger and bigger and bigger threat. Like the big bad man is getting bigger in your camera, right? So that's what Russia's claiming. And that's why they don't want Georgia, because that would be on their borders. And they don't want, they already have Poland. They don't want Ukraine because that would be on their borders. And they've already got the Baltic countries on their borders, or 2 of them at least. Well, 3 of them, I guess, you're with Kaliningrad. So that's what Russia's claiming. I'm not sure. Be Kind is being nice. All right, I'll do one more question. Be Kind, my moderator, Be Kind, who is very sweet, who I adore, is saying it's time for my break. What I try to do, guys, is we do this for about an hour and 15 minutes. I start with a short summary, which we did today, about 20 minutes of me giving you the latest news, and then an hour or so of me answering your questions. I will do one more question. You know what? We did several TikToks. I will go back once more to YouTube, but I'm still here. Hang on. I'm going to, remove this question. There we go. I am still here. I will do one more TikTok question, and then we just hang out, and we hang for, I don't know, 20 minutes or longer, and just shooting the breeze about anything that isn't politics. So you're free to hang. Usually we get several hundred people on TikTok. Oh, we had, even on Sunday, that wasn't very busy. We had 1,000 people hanging out on TikTok that were, several hundred on YouTube. We had 1,000 people on TikTok yesterday just hanging out, talking about my dog, recipes, anything we want. So I'll take one more substance question, and then we're going to hang. Feel free to hang. It's just almost like have a cup of coffee afterwards and chat. And remember, we'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, US. Who knows? Maybe I'll do 8 p.m. at some point. Interestingly enough, 8 p.m. brought in more people. I kind of don't want to make it harder for you Europeans, but at some point, you know what? No, I said tomorrow was going to be 7. We'll do 7 because some people may have already signed off. But Wednesday, we are going to shoot for 8 p.m. just to see. And I don't want to be mean to you Europeans and everybody, but we did have a lot of people from TikTok. When I had to restart at 8 o'clock, we had a crazy number of new people who came in, and it got me wondering whether 8 o'clock might actually be a better time for a lot of Americans. And again, the weekends, I then pick the times so that the Europeans and the others can join us, because I did a vote earlier about it, and like 80% of my audience was American. So that basically I had to pick a time that was better for the majority of the audience. I apologize for the Europeans and the others, because you guys have been wonderful coming in. I say Europeans because I know, like, Barbados, this time's a little easier for you. Whereas if you're in France or Norway or wherever, it gets a little more difficult. So I appreciate that. And frankly, maybe I'll mix the time up. I don't want to be too weird about mixing the times because it may make it confusing for you guys, but I kind of want to give everybody a chance. All right, let me see a quick little last question, and then we'll shift to everything else. Or actually, Ray was weighing in, I think, just helping to answer the question. Finland and Georgia are ex-Russian Empire, correct? Or Russian Empire. Georgia was part of the Soviet Union. Finland not, but under Soviet influence and all that crazy stuff. Although they did kick Soviet butt for a while. There you said, and the USSR forced Finland to be neutral, correct? And Putin wants Georgia in his sphere of influence. Yeah, part of it is also in terms of why Putin wouldn't want Ukraine, Georgia, Finland to join NATO. Part of it is Putin is upset that the Soviet Union went away. And Putin thinks probably the Soviet Union, he said that he thinks it was a mistake to get rid of the Soviet Union. He said that he thinks countries like Ukraine don't even exist. It's not a real country. It's Russia, right? He doesn't have a lot of respect for Finland either. Georgia and those countries, he always considered part of Russia as well, or part of the Soviet Union at least. And the concern is that it not only is an insult to him that these countries that he used to own, so to speak, or that the Soviet Union used to own, now become members of NATO, but also if they become members of NATO, it kills his dream of stealing those countries in the future. And whether they become part of a new Soviet Union, whether in the case of Ukraine, he just wants to steal Ukraine and make it part of Russia, period. Just eliminate Ukraine. But Finland, he'd love to make Finland, part of some bigger Soviet thing probably. Georgia, the same thing. So you get into all of that stuff we're dealing with bad people. We're dealing with bad people here, but what do you do? All right, guys, that is it for the Q&A. We'll hang out and chat and shoot the bull about other stuff. We can start a big fight over, one last question here. All right, didn't see it. Oh, just a statement, okay, from Lori Keene. We should pull up Putin and say to Russia, if anybody helps you with jets, we will act immediately and you'll see consequences you've never seen before. Thank you. No, I got to tell, I guess I'll conclude with this. I've got to tell you, I think NATO has done an amazing job. I think Biden's done an amazing job pulling NATO together and keeping our allies together, because he really did. A lot of this was Biden behind the scenes. It really was. I do not like that there seems to have been a lot of kowtowing to Vladimir Putin, and I think we sort of enabled him, by saying like this, like, oh, we would never want to give him jets because we can't engage directly in military conflict with Putin because that would be World War III, right? Oops, getting the thing off the top. That would be World War III. Oh my God, right? So by saying that, you're empowering the guy and you're letting him know what you would do. I mean, I know there was a reason we wanted to let him know what we would do, because the idea was, let's keep things safer. And if Putin knows we're not going to invade, then he won't use nukes or something like that. But I look at it as Putin's a mass murderer and a war criminal. And if you let him know you're not going to invade, then you're telling him, go ahead and be a war criminal, and maybe go ahead and be a war criminal in NATO too. And I don't want to get into this again, but I have this argument about NATO that how is NATO any different than Ukraine? Really? Oh, there's a treaty. Screw the treaty. If we think, as our leader Biden has said this, I love Biden, but Biden said this. If we get into a military conflict with Russia, it is World War III, Biden said. And I always tell you guys, in the American vernacular, World War III does not mean the war that comes after World War II. When you say World War III, you mean the apocalypse and the end of the world. What Biden was saying was, it's going to be the end of the world. If it's going to be the end of the world, if we get into war with Russia, then it's not worth getting into war with Russia, even if they attack Poland, which is a NATO ally. Even if they attack the Baltic states, which is a NATO ally. Because isn't it better to give up a country of 40 million people that's a NATO ally than have it be the end of the world? So this whole logic we've been using, and we've been telling Putin this and admitting this, I think makes it even more dangerous for NATO. And as I said, I think it makes it more dangerous because it makes other countries want to get nuclear weapons, because they say, you're never going to defend us, All right, enough of that. Boom. We are done with the substance. All right, guys, let's hang and chat if you want to hang and chat. Whew. I don't know why. I do feel a little better today. I mean, I was feeling very tired earlier, maybe because I just had 2 naproxens. That's probably why. I had I was getting like a sinus headache. So I took several naproxens and a Sudafed and lots of others, and then a big chunk of chocolate that Casey gave me, hoping that would be enough to and I think it did. It got rid of my headache pretty well, which is good. Oh, that's what I'd heard. Yeah, Emily's saying it's a mirror image on. Oh, that is fun. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, YouTube. I don't know how to say which is the correct way. That's really funny. I mean, I'll say that the windows are over this is my left shoulder. So I'm guessing YouTube is showing it correctly, but TikTok is the opposite, I think. Or TikTok's showing me a mirror thing. Like my shoulders here, it's in line on TikTok, whereas on YouTube, it's cutting across. Yeah. My nose is good. I had sort of this minor surgery that ironically knocked me out for over a week to sort of enlarge the nasal passages, but it wasn't. People were weighing in like online or somewhere else. I was going to ask about Will Smith. We're talking about that next. I started a big fight on TikTok talking about Will Smith, but no, the nose thing, it was much less. It deals with these things called turbinates in your nose, and they've got to go in and pare them down, which means like cutting them. I mean, it's a little scary. Thank you, Laura. It was sweet of you. It's a little scary, and you need to heal. And there's even apparently some nerves in the back of your nose they have to deaden. There's all sorts of things they do, but it's minor surgery inside your nose. That first evening was so painful, I couldn't even imagine it. And I'm actually a little ticked at the doctor's office because they gave me Tylenol with codeine, but it says take 1 pill every 6 hours as needed. And I'm thinking it's a strong pill. Well, I Google it I went to bed at 6 o'clock that night. I had a friend visiting. I was like, just leave. I'm in pain. And I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up, my throat was just in pain. The pill did nothing. The next day when I'm feeling better, I Google it and I found out I could have taken 2 of the pills and it wouldn't have been a problem. Maybe even more. But what a normal dosage would have been 2 of the pills. He told me 1. So I could anyway. I got Tylenol with codeine now, but that was not the point. So anyway, yeah, the nose is fine. Still a little clogged. I got sort of a headache today, like I said, but he told me it's 2 weeks. And he's not kidding. It still is doing this sort of clogged. I've got like a stuffy nose, even though it's not a stuffy nose. But hopefully it means I will breathe better. The other thing, wait, somebody had Will Smith. So the Will Smith thing, I've got to say, actually, there's a very funny, see if I've got it on here. I put it on TikTok. Hang on. I'm logging into my iPad because I've learned not to touch the iPhone, because if I touch the iPhone, my TikTok feed freezes, and we're not doing that again. I'm getting my haircut tomorrow, thank God. I mean, the funny part is, like, I think it's looking okay tonight, and my hair, maybe everybody's hair does this. I swear your hair is like alive, and it knows to behave when you're going to get it cut. So like the day or the day before I'm getting my hair cut, I kind of go, oh, I like this. But it's been driving me insane. It's so long. I mean, it's like really long, which I kind of enjoy, but it's just too much. So yeah, tomorrow it's getting cut. But let me find you the picture. And just anybody who's joining us, this is the part of the show where we all hang out and talk, and we're done with the politics. So I apologize if you thought you were coming to talk politics. Ukraine we do for the first hour and 15 minutes. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Okay, I don't have it here. Let me open my, I'm going to open my TikTok. Hang on here. Talk amongst yourselves. Let me open my TikTok here. My iPad is so old. It's from 2015 that it's slow, but it works. And I hate spending another $600 on a new iPad. Like, if I don't need to, it just annoys me that it gets old after a while.
I wanted to share something fun from Ukraine for once. To officially work
there's Ukraine Badass, who we love, talking in the background. Here we go. Wait, hold on. There we go. I'm going to show it first to the YouTube people. Now, I don't know if you can tell. That's Zelensky and Putin. It's hard to tell here. Actually, yeah, wait. On the phone, you can tell exactly what it is. On the phone, you can see on the TikTok that it's Zelensky slapping Putin. Here, it's harder to tell. Somebody did a wonderful, very well done meme of the Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. It's funny. I got into trouble on Twitter about it, and I just stopped reading the responses. I got so annoyed. Last night, I'm in bed reading about this, and I'm going, oh my God, what happened? I'm looking for video, and I'm seeing, at this point, nobody had like the full thing. It was like censored in the US, and they didn't have the video yet. So people were just saying that he made Chris Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife, and Will Smith like slapped him and swore and everything else. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a little extreme. That's kind of boorish. That's a little extreme. Because everybody gets jokes made about them, whatever. I get up in the morning, same thing. I'm seeing the same story. Well, finally, and thank you for joining us. Finally, my Twitter handle is my last name, Aravosis. So same as my TikTok handle, not the same as the YouTube. YouTube's John Aravosis DC. So I get up this morning, not until 10 a.m. on CNN am I seeing what the joke really, like I heard the joke, but the joke was simply, hey, Will Smith's wife can be the new star of Jane, what was it? Jane, not Jane Doe. What's it called? Jane, the movie about the female soldier with, what's her face? Oh my God, I'm forgetting all my words here. What's the name? The movie, G.I. Jane. G.I. Jane, that's it. She can star in G.I. Jane too. And I'm kind of going, okay, I don't get the joke, whatever. Well, at 10 a.m. this morning, I hear, mind you, I'm sorry, nobody I follow on TikTok that was outraged about poor Chris Rock, nobody mentioned this. And I'm sorry, a part of me feels like there's some misogyny going on here, and maybe even black woman misogyny towards black women. I don't know. But nobody's mentioning the fact to me that Jada Pinkett Smith, I guess, Will Smith's wife, has alopecia. Alopecia is the thing that the African-American congresswoman, we like her from Massachusetts, forgetting her name. I think it's 3 names, forgetting her name, but she has it too, where you start to lose your hair. Mind you, a woman, you lose your hair and there's no guarantee it's coming back. Okay. So she's been losing her hair. So she's shaved her head. and basically has a military buzz cut. I mean, like literally you see a shadow on her head and that's it. And she's at the Academy Awards looking gorgeous, but a woman with a shaved head. And he's making a joke about her head being shaved and saying she can do the next military movie because in G.I. Jane, there's Demi Moore had to shave her head for the movie. And I'm sorry, I heard that this morning and I was pissed because I'm thinking, not only did you say this about a man's wife, and I'm sorry, but and forget wife or husband. I think when somebody goes after your spouse making fun of their illness, especially when it's a woman losing her hair, because let's face it, for guys, it still sucks as a guy. Having the hairline go back, I'm not happy, but I'm a guy. I know if I go bald, people expect guys to be bald. People do not expect women to be bald. Way worse for women. Making fun of her for having a health condition that's causing her to lose her hair. And not to mention that, but pointing it out in front of supposedly 1 billion people watching worldwide. So the camera turns to her. And now from her position, I'm a woman. I've got this illness. Everyone's now looking at me because I have this illness. And you just kind of told them that I have an illness. And that's why I'm not surprised Will Smith did what he did. I do not believe you should go up there and beat the bejesus out of Chris Rock. Having said that, what Chris Rock said was so abominable that I would call it a tie in terms of my moral indignation. Well, I said this on Twitter this morning, and oh my God, people I like on Twitter, that is not, you are wrong. And my favorite was, you are wrong. They made clear from the beginning what the joke was. No one was not telling. I'm like, oh, right. I'm wrong that for 12 hours, I've been following the news and nothing I've been seeing has been telling me what the joke actually was, that she had alopecia, which I didn't know. But you're right. Everyone's been making that clear. I'm just a blithering idiot. So anyway, yes. But my favorite part, though, is that this became such a cause célèbre on Twitter that everyone got pissed at me. And I'm just going, guys, why the F do you even care? Seriously, it's the Academy. The Academy Awards and two guys fighting when we got Ukraine going on and everything else. But I will say, it does tick me off to a bit because no one even appreciated the argument of doing this to a woman, to anyone who's sick, let alone a woman of all people and in front of her husband. And you don't think the husband's going to go through the roof? Maybe more husbands need to go through the roof. And to some degree, this almost reminds me of the Joe Biden moment to some degree. Ooh, he had the human reaction. Let's not have that. And actually, those of you who are old enough, there was a famous debate question. Mike Dukakis, the Democrat, was running against George Bush, the senior, for president. So 1988, right? And Dukakis, the Democrat, was a very smart man, very intellectual, kind of talks like this, and a very solid, non-emotional guy. And he gets asked, and a really nasty question, sip of water, nasty question. Dukakis is or was, I think he's still alive, is against the death penalty. And the reporter says, if your wife, Kitty, was raped and murdered, would you still be against the death penalty? And rather than give an answer, from the heart and say, well, if my wife were, first of all, to say, you know what, that's a disgusting question. Second of all, if my wife were raped and murdered, I'd probably be the first guy killing him. Fair enough, right? That's the normal response to give. He says, well, now I'm paraphrasing here, but, well, you've got to look at the history of the law and a death penalty historically. And he's giving this wonky, geeky answer to a question about his wife being raped and murdered. And everyone was like, he lost the election. And that was certainly a key part of the election where people just went, this guy's a robot, like he's not a real person. And anyway, that's kind of my feeling where everyone, we can talk about societal mores and everything else, and I'm game, and I don't want people punching and hitting each other. But what Chris Rock did was an abomination, what he did to that poor woman, and the fact that nobody that I saw was standing up and saying, yeah, maybe he shouldn't have hit him, but he's an ass for what he did to that woman. I didn't see anybody say that publicly. They were all asking Chris Rock how he was feeling. Maybe we should be asking Jada how she's feeling. Anyway, I haven't been reading what you guys have been saying. Does anybody agree with me? I mean, literally, I stopped reading the comments on TikTok. People were livid. They were livid. And I was like, oh my God, you know? Oh, he had to know she was sick. Apparently, I didn't know because I don't follow Hollywood. He had to know she was sick. He had to know. I think he must have, but yeah. And just so people know, we're talking about Chris Rock and everything because oh, fuck me. Sorry. Oh God, I just swore. I did it again. I did it again. Oh, I just kicked off did I just kill the TikTok again? Did I just kill TikTok or not? Is it frozen? Let me know if my TikTok froze, guys. Damn it, it froze. Damn it. Oh, I did it again. Sorry, and I used the F word. Sorry. Son of a B. Oh God, event has ended. Oh God, now I'm going to have to go and start another one. Unbelievable. Now we're going to get, except that it's not about Ukraine. You know what? All right. Sorry. You know what? We'll have to tell the TikTok folks because I can't start it up. It says the latest on Ukraine, and I don't want to start it up again on TikTok. I screwed up. I hit the screen to get rid of something, and it literally moved my thing out of the way, and it froze. Oh, well. Sorry, guys. No, I realized if I start TikTok again, it's going to say the latest on Ukraine, and I don't want it to say that. So you know what? We're going to have to leave the TikTokers wanting more, and I'll apologize. I'll apologize in my next video. Sorry, TikTokers, but I realize it's already 8:40, so I want to call it quits anyway. I know, I screwed up TikTok. Sorry, TikTok. I'll apologize tomorrow. No, I screwed it up again. At this point, like I said, I'm afraid of starting it on TikTok because if I start it on TikTok, then it's going to invite new people in again. And I don't want to do that because that would be weird because literally I want to sign off now anyway. We've been doing this for an hour and 40 minutes. So that would not be nice to the new people. So that was funny, though. I will tell you this. The really funny thing. Oh, and thank you, Jennifer. The really funny thing, though, on TikTok was the first time or the second time I accidentally froze myself and had to come back in. We started with 8,000 people watching. I don't think I've gotten more than 5,000 or 6,000 ever at a time, meaning simultaneously. The initial rush was 8,000 people. And I was like, holy cow. That's why I mentioned that I'm considering maybe doing an 8 o'clock one. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do 7, but maybe the next day we do. Alicia, what happened is I'm a moron. Something popped up on my screen and I flicked it away and it flicked TikTok away. And every time it does it, it freezes. I don't think TikTok was being bad. I think the thing is TikTok, you know what I need to do too? I'm writing this to myself. I'm doing it when I hang up. I need to, I don't really want TikTok to run in the background because I'm afraid it's going to like suck my battery dry when I'm not there. But if I accidentally take TikTok off the screen, it stops. And that's what happened. So, no, I don't think this time it was Russians. This was just me being a moron. So, all right, guys. Yes, TikTok has ended. You know what? I'm going to go. We're already at an hour 40 anyway. I do feel pretty good today. This must mean that I'm feeling better, which is good. I don't feel nearly as but then again, like I said, I had several leaves and a big chunk of 73% chocolate. So it's entirely possible that I'm not feeling well and the chocolate is making me feel well. Always a possibility. With me, it's the chocolate. Chocolate is my bane. Chocolate makes me happy, but it may also keep me up. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you. I'm still looking at my phone going TikTok. Oh God. Yeah, we'll blame the Russians. Maybe it'll make the TikTokers feel bad and give me more money. So it was the Russians. Sorry, everybody. Chocolate does cure everything. Chocolate may keep me up at night, but it cures everything. All right, guys. We'll do tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Again, 7 o'clock Washington, D.C. time. And then maybe the next day we'll do 8 o'clock just to see. Maybe there's more. I know we're going to lose some of the Europeans, and I apologize, but we may be able to get a few more Americans. I'm just still trying to find. And maybe, like I said, maybe we'll do. Oh, there's movement in the force. I hope she's hiding in my bedroom, though. I don't know if you can hear in the background. Sasha was shaking like to get out of her little nap, but now she's hiding in my bedroom. See, she's learned this is I'm still looking. This is the time of evening, Sash. What do you think? Oh, she's still hiding in the bedroom. She knows this is the time of the evening that I grab her and I bring her and show her to you guys. So she's hiding now. Hey, what are you doing? Nope, she's getting some water. Yeah. Let's do a quick hello to the gang. What do you think? All right, I'm going to try to grab her for a quick hello, and then we'll sign off. It is kind of funny that she always wakes up right as I want to sign off. What do you think? What do you think? Come here. Come here. Oh, jeez. All right. She ran into the bedroom. She ran into the bedroom. No, I'm telling you, this dog is so damn smart. And I love that she's smart, but I imagine now, like, I was a pretty smart kid. I imagine how hard it is for parents to have smart kids because now she's coming in. Now she's running by. Wait, I don't know if you can see. Oh, she's got her, there she is. She's got her, look at her. She's picking up the ball now, and she's going to look at us with the ball in her mouth in a second. Yeah, no, she ran. I went to pick her up, and she ran into my bedroom and hid because she knows this is the time of night I pick her up. And she's not what are you doing, kid? You can see her head sticking out just above the couch. Wait, where's my little? Yeah, that was her head. She's got the ball in her mouth. You can't quite see the ball in her mouth because the couch is too low. But she said the eyes are literally her eyes looking over an ottoman, though. The ottoman's here, and the eyes are like looking at me. It's like Putin eyeing Ukraine. Oh, my God. All right, guys, I'm going. Thank you. Good night, as always. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 7. Sorry, TikTok. I won't screw up tomorrow. God, I had no idea it was that sensitive, though. Jeez Louise. God, that drives me nuts. But all right, we'll worry about it tomorrow. All right, bye, guys. Thank you.